Good morning, everybody, and welcome to class 3, part 1. We're going to be talking about gradients and using the color wheel in transitions within the sky. I'll be quickly jumping over to doing a couple demos with glazing and then also doing a painting from beginning to end. We will end the class with giving feedback and doing some critiques of the homework about building structure and using the clouds as a way to give values and and form to the sky. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this camera. So look away if you get seasick.
Ooh, I like that one next to it.
All right, so today's lesson is about warm and cool colors and how we use those in our skies. So I've got a couple examples that I've done using just, one big panel blocked off with tape. And actually I have a couple different demos. But the main thing is that we want to find that gradation in the sky from the horizon on up. And we're dealing a lot with sunrise, sunset, different times of day, different effects of weather and atmosphere. So this is a great tool, is just taking a big panel or a piece of paper or whatever it is, putting pieces of tape across it and blocking off different areas so that we can just do a whole lot of quick little experiments. So if this is, something that's effective, otherwise just a bunch of little paintings. You can see I've got like tonalism to high color to high saturation. And it's just a fun way to work without being too concerned about the end result. Here's one more quick example.
Wow.
So it's just a lot of fun. And, they're all very free and I'm just able to play and experiment. And we'll be talking about, see this gradation going up? Ignore the clouds in these. So even in this nocturne, you've got a gradation within the sky, right? I, as you can tell, like to put red towards my horizon. And that may be something about where I live. I live on the boundary of farming areas, and there's a lot of dust that gets kicked up. And I just like that little bit of warmth. When we are working on gradations, let me move the camera a little bit better here. When we are working on gradations within the sky, a lot of times, at least as far as I'm concerned, it'll start off with a little bit of kind of a reddish tint that's really strong. So I'm just going to go ahead and lighten that up. And what happens then is you've got the sun usually, again, setting or rising. And it gets a little yellower. As I'm gradiating the colors, I want to start mixing them. What a lot of people, I'm just going to put one beside it, an example of what I see with a lot of students as they're beginning, is they think, at the bottom, it's yellowish. And then they look at the top of the sky and they know that it's quite blue. right? And then they hear the word gradation, which just means that transition between the two. But you guys already know what's about to happen, right? As I meet that yellow color,
It will be green.
it's gonna turn green. And sometimes there is a greenish hue to the sky, but we want to do it purposely. We don't want that accidental. And see, this looks like a pretty naturalistic, transition in the sky. So far, so good. But as we get down to that yellow, all of a sudden we get a green. Okay, so how do we observe the sky, witness what is actually going on in those transitions? And how do we overcome that? Let me add some more yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow a transition here. I'm going to take my white, and you'll notice this a lot of times in the sky, that the yellow becomes much whiter, and then the blue becomes quite a bit lighter in this mid area, in this transition. And then the blue pops in. And you see how I avoided that green that's happening down here? So watch for the transitions, witness what is going on there. And what we want to be aware of is how colors relate on the color wheel. So I'll bring that up here in just a second. And you can see now that I've brought this blue down, watch what happens. I'm going to start getting green. But it's much more subtle. Let's add more white and keep that transition really subtle.
Isn't green sometimes in the sky though?
Sorry, I'm not cleaning my brush as properly as I should. So that blue is sneaking in. You see how that transition versus that transition feels much more naturalistic?
Yeah.
And this is what we'll talk about next week too, is noticing that I'm changing the value of the colors. I'm changing the strength of the chroma, which just means the strength of the colors as I'm coming down. And you oftentimes get these, sorry, I'm just need to clean this brush a little better. Otherwise it's going to continue to be green in here. So by using the color wheel, we can begin to look at how do these colors actually meet up. So if I just go from yellow to blue, right, I end up with green. But if I go from yellow to orange to red to a cooler red to blue, let's do that really quickly here. Let's just change it. Step this back so you can see the color wheel. So if I look at the color wheel and use it almost like a rainbow, but I don't want clean rainbow stripes. But what I'm going to be looking for is the transition in the color. So let's go ahead and start here mentally. Let's go to the yellow or the warm yellow. It's not a beautiful little transition of colors there. So that's kind of our horizon. Let's put some dark so we can kind of see what we're talking about. So here we've got a mountain. Right, and then we've got our horizon and the dust in the atmosphere. We're going up to the warm setting or rising light, whatever it is, sunset or sunrise. Looking at our color wheel, we're going to watch this transition, but we are going to also witness how much, I don't know why I'm saying witness so much, but we're going to be aware of the color transitions as we go up and how they lighten. So we're going to change this yellow. And we can go back up to our cool reds if we want to create a transition to these blues, and watch what happens here. Especially in clouds, this is really an effective technique. So we're just looking for the transitions and trying to find those in-between colors that will help us, so it's not just, you know, two colors going back to back. Go ahead and grab a brush to soften that, and we'll just see if we can make that into a nice smooth transition. If I brought my blues down, I would be dealing with these greens. So I'm going to start here in the yellows.
Yo.
So you guys see that transition? Let's do it over here. And again, green can be really effective, like a greenish color, because that's not a really strong green. There it is. Now it's stronger because I made a more pure yellow. Right? So this can still work, but you want to be purposeful about it. Like maybe it is about, you know, pink lights, pink highlights. And then you're saying, okay, I want the green because it plays off the pink so well. Right? But this feels much more naturalistic. So looking to the color wheel, finding where are these in-between colors that I can mix up and add. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a painting that we're actually going to do two of them. And I'm going to be using kind of a glazing technique here. Really quick, we're going to do one in kind of a more monochrome, like bringing it all towards one color. And I gotta see where the painting is. Okay, actually, I wanted to leave it with those. Sorry. So when I set it up like this, I have a platform I can put a thicker painting, but I also added screws to it that I can set a panel into. So this is a demo I did for a workshop a while back up in Seattle area. And actually, one of you guys was in that workshop and may recognize this painting. So I'm not unhappy with this, but I want to see what happens if I glaze into it and really modify and make everything kind of reddish. So I'm thinking kind of a quinacridone red. And can you guys see the gradations in these colors as they're going up? What's bugging me are these clouds are a little too strong. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is glaze the whole thing with kind of a quinacridone red, turning a lot of this area to purples, bring in a little bit of ultramarine blue into the cool dark areas, maybe a little bit at the top of the sky. And then I'm going to bring a touch of possibly Indian yellow. We'll feel it out here in just a second and see what that looks like. I'm going to use a little bit of Galkid gel just to help the paint to spread. And actually, I don't even know if I need to use that or not, because this is kind of the undercolor, but I'm just going to shift these colors so they all go to kind of a reddish color a little bit. And this is one of the things I really do enjoy about oils, is this ability to kind of, once it's really, really dry, it's been a number of months, I can revisit this painting that I was never super excited about and just try some shifts in color, temperature. So I'm just taking a paper towel and wiping that transparent color across. And what I'm hoping it will do is kind of modify and harmonize those colors. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That was quinacridone red.
That was quinacridone red. So the main thing for me is I could have done this with green. I was actually thinking about almost doing it with like a kind of a sap green or some other color. I could have done it with Indian yellow, but already this painting feels more, again, harmonized. It just feels like it all belongs kind of in the same world.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, good, thanks. Again, I react to my paintings in a physical way. Like literally, I already go, oh, that just feels better.
Yeah.
Something more naturalistic. There's something like before it looked a little fake. It felt a little like I was trying too hard to make things jump and to make things pop. Now I'm going to be willing to mess it up. I'm not positive that adding some cool blues, because to make these reds and these warms feel special, I have this idea that bringing in cool blues, which are already kind of showing through, but what happens if we push those a little more, those cool colors? Right? So to make our warms, for anybody that's writing notes, when you are trying to make your warms feel warmer, your sunset, your special area of your painting, oftentimes you kind of run out. Like, okay, I've already used pure yellow, I've already used pure red. Like the color can't get more vibrant than that. So what we do is we subdue and cool down the areas around it. You guys see how just adding that little bit of blue is even making that warm feel warmer?
Yeah.
Watch what happens when I bring that into the foreground grasses here a little bit. Let's raise this up. But watch what happens to the water. Watch what happens to the top of these grasses. I'm trying to create the illusion that this warm, soft, sunset or sunrise, whatever color these are, whatever time of day this is.
So it adds more depth also, it seems like.
It really does, because blue colors often want to fall back and recede into space. But they also, if you have warm light like we have here, they kind of bounce around and creates that kind of electricity. So already, right, it was all reddish for a little while. And now by bringing in some of these cool colors, these blues, and I mean, I'm just doing it so simply. I mean, that was quinacridone red, and now it's ultramarine blue. Like if I was doing this for myself, I'd be mixing, more interesting colors and stuff. But a lot of times it amazes me how dynamic it is when I just come in and warm up or cool down or both areas. Isn't that interesting?
Mhm. Dynamic.
Something magical about having paintings you almost like, but don't quite like, and being willing to kind of sacrifice them because there's a good chance, this wouldn't work. But the other great thing is I could just take some paint thinner and probably bring this all back. In fact, let's try that in some areas. Let's bring back some of that warm color, just a little bit. I'm not going to wipe it all off. So I just dip my finger in a little bit of paint thinner there, and I'm just going to bring back some of this warm area.
Wow.
So fun. The reason I share about glazing and the wipe away technique so much is because it's something that I've never seen other teachers do. Never in all my 20 years of, college all the way through taking workshops and stuff. And I just think that with oils, there's so many things that oils can do.
Yeah.
Can you use
And
that? Sorry.
go ahead.
Can you use that when it's dry? Will it remove that or no?
No, and the undercolor that I just
Yeah.
revealed is totally dry.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so no, if it dried, you're stuck.
Yeah.
So, and the good news is if I went, oh, I don't like that, I can just bring that red right back in. Right? See that? But I did like it, so now I can remove it again. And I just feel like all of a sudden this painting is so much more cohesive. What do you guys think?
Way more pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, right. And what do you think it is that's making it more pleasing to the eye?
Color. Color for me anyway.
Well, yeah, but what about the color? Because I mean, it was more colorful before.
Well, it's unified, harmonic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you as a musician and as a writer, like how like all of a sudden, if you throw in a discordant key or a discordant note, like how all of a sudden it just throws the music out. Like you need to have a harmony. The piece needs to play together, right?
Yes, for sure.
So I'm just gonna test something here. I've got some ultramarine blue with a little bit of white. You guys probably already know what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna bring in some cool fog, and I'm just gonna test it. And this may be too cold. This may be too discordant, right?
Yes.
Ooh.
Right?
But it's
What a
nice
jump.
color.
Yikes. What was he thinking?
Woohoo.
I like it myself.
It's fun, right? It is.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting. All of a sudden, the focus went from here down into here because we have this big jump between warms and cools, right? But if I do want to harmonize the piece, again, using the like music metaphor, like this all of a sudden is, you know, the exciting part of the music, right? It's got to jump, but I don't want it to be so sudden. It's not like quiet, 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 bam. I want to, you know, have a little more of a gradation or a transition. So I'm just going to clean my brush off and start dry brushing into that a little bit. And what I already know is I've got some of this reddish glaze color, that quinacridone red, that's already on there. So if I clean the brush and basically use the paint that is on here only,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I can create that transition.
Purple harmony.
And it's gonna, what? Yeah, it's gonna turn a little more purple because I've got this cool blue color that's mixing with that quinacridone red that's very thin and transparent on there. But watch as I can now start to push areas back, right? Because this was just a line of darks, right, against there. And now by just bringing those lights up into here, I can bring some trees forward. Push some trees back. Let's bring the fog down into the water. So I'm just going to take it. And keep lowering it. Let's bring it right down into the water because a lot of time the fog sits on the water.
Oh, that
Isn't
blue is
that interesting?
This is cool, very cool.
Very nice.
I can make it a very foggy day by just taking that fog up.
playtime.
Right? I can make it a less foggy day by simply coming back in with my paper towel and I'm lightly rubbing. I'm not overdoing it.
I like that better.
Mm-hmm.
A little more subtle, right? It's
Yes.
More
it's
natural.
still got that sense of mystery, but it's not completely obscuring.
Mhm.
It's also mixing in with that quinacridone red a little more. So it's got a little more harmony, right? That note that was just jumping off, again, musically, just jumping off like a big ta-dun is now becoming a ta-dun.
Got mellowed.
I should be asking you musicians in the class what the terminology is. I never played music. I'm a big fan, listen to it all the time, but I don't know the terminology.
4.
Right? Let's take and do the inverse. So now that we've got this cool blue down here, I think I could maybe reveal a little bit of the blue in the sky. I don't want to overdo it because I really like the harmony up here. You see how just removing a little bit just gets that little more blue? I feel like people who don't know the power of glazing and the power of additive and subtractive painting are really missing out on a huge amount of the tools or the capabilities that oils allow us. See that? So I
Yeah.
just brought those blues out.
That's
Awesome.
It's not as jumpy as it was in the beginning. You know, there's more harmony between here and these clouds. It has little bits of that purple all throughout. It's got a bit of warmth. Maybe I'll even try to make it just a touch warmer. Let's see what happens. Again, we're just playing, we're experimenting. What happens if I reveal just a little more of that yellow? Oh, I don't mind it. Don't mind it.
Not at all.
Gorgeous.
Does anybody here think that they liked it better before?
No,
Heck, no.
I liked it, but I like this better.
Right. And it's because of harmony, I believe. Put words in your mouth for you, Linda.
I think so. I like harmony.
You do. Yeah, I think we all do. I think, a dramatic, jumpy, really exciting sunset, with all the colors and all the splash can be fun. But I think in restraint, in harmony, there's something more special, a little more realism. But, this week is your chance to really push colors and experiment and explore and really do that high drama, exploding landscape or sunset if you want to.
Here's what I found.
All right, let's add another one. Are you guys okay with one more glazing example?
Mhm. Sure.
All
Absolutely.
right. Give me 1 second while I flip these around. Because this is a wider panel, I like to use the teeth. So on this side, it's just a platform with a little lip. And then I can put the panel here. But when it's a big, thick canvas, there's teeth on the back of this
Okay.
that hold it into place. So that's why I'm flipping it and turning it and doing all these things. So this is another demo painting from a class who knows how long ago.
Michael, did you have that easel custom built for you?
Ish. It's from a company called Hughes Easel in Florida. And for any of you that are serious about doing this, because yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than being able to just do this. And I can fit a 6 foot tall painting when if I don't have my big tabaret in the way. Yeah, this thing is, I mean, I like it so much that I own 2 of them. I have one in my other studio as well. And I've never for 1 second regretted buying it, but it does cost thousands of dollars. But it makes working a joy. And, if you're going to be doing a thing all day, every day.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys can see this is another one that's kind of okay. It's almost goodish. It has some decent ideas. It was a demo. I think when I'm not sure from when. I don't like the shapes of these trees. So let's just look at it real quick here. So what happens is, when you get to live with a painting and you've fallen out of love with it and everything else, you can kind of look at it and go, okay, what do I like? I like the transitions. I like yellow versus gray. I've always liked that color scheme. These trees are very repetitive, right? Looks like 3 fingers. Those are dumb. I've got some kind of grasses growing up here. I don't dislike that. This area here is very repetitive and very busy. It'd be nicer if I'd cut that in, and maybe I'll be able to. But the main thing is I want to bring some dramatic colors into here. So let's start with, if you guys are okay with it, we're going to kind of do the opposite of what I just did. We're going to make this bright and exciting. And then we can modify it as we see fit. All right. So you guys already know I prefer, and just kind of what happens here, because I've had people who say, well, that doesn't really look like the horizon where I live. But often we get this band of red. I don't know why I'm using the biggest brush I own, but let's try.
It covers a lot.
This is also going to be a good opportunity for us to look at what happens in the transition. So
Michael, did you add glazing to that red? Is there still glazing in it, or just, is it just?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Did you add glazing material to that red, or is it just the paint?
I have just barely a touch of Galkid gel.
Okay.
Any kind of glazing medium, but don't use very much.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of Galkid gel or any kind of a glazing medium. Basically what you're doing is if you're using paint thinner, you're weakening the bond of the paint to the surface. But if you add a medium, it's like putting glue into your paint. So you get a little more adhesion. You don't want it eventually falling off. So I'll add just a little bit sometimes. And it also adds to the slipperiness of it. So let's go a little bit crazy here. I'm going to go to my Indian yellow. I'm going to add that in this area.
Was the red alizarin, Michael?
Quinacridone, but yeah, alizarin would be a very similar color. Yeah, I just prefer quinacridone, has a bigger color gamut range. It can do more things, like I can make a quinacridone into an alizarin really easily, but I cannot make an alizarin into a quinacridone.
Awesome, thank you.
Unfortunately, quinacridone red has doubled in price in the last year. Evidently with our trade wars with China. So I didn't realize, but quinacridone red is from China. So what color should I do these clouds, do you think?
Purple,
I'm sorry?
purple.
Purple. Let's do purple. So let me,
I put on an ultramarine blue with a little manganese.
with a little bit of what?
A little bit of the manganese.
There you go. Good call.
I know, I listen sometimes.
I
It's
listen,
gonna be
but I still
pretty
can't see
purple.
it.
Look at that purple.
Woo,
Made your
Linda, what have you done?
woohoo, I love it. You could add more red and it'll be brighter.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I just want to show you guys that without tangents, without transitions, we get these crazy colors. And yellow and purple
Nick Brown.
on the color wheel. Ah, you already got it. Yeah, yellow and purple on the color wheel are opposites. So when these two colors meet, say it again,
Makes brown.
makes brown. I do not want a brown band of color here.
Right.
So add more red.
Man, you guys are listening. That's amazing. So let's just do it. Let's just make brown here real quick. So I'm going to have just over here on the side, I'm going to have this kind of purpley color meet that yellowish color.
Oh, that's still pretty. I
Still beautiful, right? It's more tonalism, right?
yeah.
Because browns and golds go into that tonalist color. But if I don't want it to go towards tonalism, then Linda already said it. I can find that in-between color, which is going to be more reddish. So my yellow, when it meets red, is going to become what?
Orange.
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 And just a beautiful
Right.
golden color.
And then where that red meets the purpley blue, it's going to create a nice transition. You guys already beginning to see it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right? I mean,
exciting.
yes, this is beautiful, but unless I'm painting a tonalist painting or, you know, a more monochromatic, subdued, earthy colored painting, I probably want to stay away from brown. Look at that transition. Isn't that gorgeous?
That is so beautiful.
This looks like a sunset all of a sudden. So let's take towards the top. And let's go ahead and put some blue up here. So then we're going to have a red to yellow to orange to red to purple to blue. All right, let's look at the color wheel one more quick time. I hate to be overly redundant, but I think it's really important to talk about that transition. So we had red
Yeah.
The orange.
to yellow back to red, to a cooler red,
Yeah,
to purple,
yeah,
to blue.
to blue.
And what did we avoid? We avoided the center, which is brown, and we avoided the green transitions. So just knowing that, all of a sudden you guys are going to be able to just be as colorful and dramatic or as subdued and subtle as you want. Please, please, please let me know if I am being clear or if you have any questions on this. I see this so much in students' work where we talk about gradations, or they even see it in the sky, but all of a sudden they just have a brown band where colors meet, or they've got a green band where colors meet. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we make our warms feel warmer while still creating gradations between our warms and our cools that seem effective. It's getting crazy. High drama, right?
Now the fun begins.
Now the fun begins. Now I'm just going to grab another big old house brush here. So should I start in my cool or my warms, do you think, if I want to kind of just smooth this out and give myself a feeling for what's going on here?
I start with the warms to keep that pressure cleaner.
Yeah,
Exactly. If I started with my cools and didn't clean my brush really well, I'm going to end up with, it's going to be green or brown in this area.
Yeah.
Woo! Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Mm.
I mean, those purples, and they're so purple because they're next to yellows.
Yeah.
But you have these little transition of warm colors. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this brush because I do have blue on it because I put some blue here to make some of these purples. So I'm going to clean this brush, or a smarter me does something else and just picks up the brush that has the red on it instead, because I know I want this red. So as I'm going across this yellow, get those gorgeous oranges and those nice transitions. Going up into the reds. Right, now the transition is even almost stronger. Let's bring some of that down here.
That's rich.
Okay, now I feel like I can go up here as we're getting into our purpley colors. And I don't have to do this with blending. I could pre-mix these colors into beautiful transition piles, which is what I want to do when I do the painting demo. Is going to be a little more direct. But I just wanted to use this as an example of temperature transitions within a sunset and or sunrise. A lot more drama now, isn't there?
Yeah, I like it.
Right? And I can decide, do I like it or not? And I can come in and keep modifying it, but it sure is punchy and moody, right? It might be too moody. Maybe these darks are too dark up here in the purples, right?
So if you
Yeah.
wanted to lighten the darks, how would you do that?
How
'Cause I
would you
feel-
do that?
I don't know. So the painting I did, I think the sky is too dark, and so I'm trying to figure out how to lighten it.
Let's do that, because I also
bulb
agree.
up
This is too dark. I wanted an interesting, moody painting, and I liked some of the transitions, but this is just kind of overbearing. So let's get back to adding a little white. Right? When glazing, I typically don't use white, but I'm kind of done glazing now. I've got my different values. I've made things a little more dramatic, a little more interesting.
So my
Let's,
question was, so you don't glaze with white?
No,
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah, that's why I haven't done anything to lighten. I'm just trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, so when it's still wet though.
Yeah,
Michael, can we glaze with zinc white because it is transparent, semi-transparent?
Yeah, but I usually do scumbling instead, kind of like what I did with the fog in the previous painting.
Uh-huh.
oh, scumble with a off.
Like
some
a
kind of
dry
off-
brush. I don't really use, when I'm using white, I rarely use medium. I just kind of scrub it in.
Okay, that makes sense. But it has to be dry underneath to do that?
Yeah, otherwise you're just gonna scrub off the paint.
Right, okay. So I'll just have to wait. Yeah,
Yeah. Work on multiple paintings so
right.
that you're not just watching it dry. Nothing is less fun than watching your painting dry. I've even tried yelling at it, telling it to hurry up, but it really doesn't help.
At least with acrylic, you can use a hairdryer.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's what I'm really loving about the acrylics. It's just the ability to put 4 or 5 glazes. Because you guys remember the painting I worked on last week with the big coastal trees and the big rocks? I haven't been able to glaze into that another layer because it's never dry. It hasn't dried. So here I am a week later, and I need to really make sure my glazes are dry. So I didn't use enough of a dryer, or for whatever reason. I should have planned out these clouds. I just put on colors. I didn't really think about where I want them to go or what I want them to do. But so let's just kind of, let's get gestural with them a little bit here. Let's see if we can't bring in something. But otherwise, that's kind of how I'll just kind of bring in some white paint and lighten them up. I mean, that color is much more pleasant. But that's one thing I like about when I glaze is I can come in and I can adjust those colors by lightening them or darkening them.
And there's still purple.
Yeah, because it's blending in with those other colors I'm using. I'm going to do the same thing in the light here in just a second. Yeah, would have been nice if I had figured out, made a plan for those clouds.
It's okay. We see how you handle it, and that helps us to know that we should use it as a doorstop. But we can fix it.
We can fix it. Everything is figure outable.
Yep.
There's always a way.
What's that?
There's always a way.
There's always a way. Sometimes patience is the way, which is sometimes the toughest part about being an oil painter.
That's true.
All right, let's get to those lights here. And yeah, I mean, I'm not super happy. I'll probably wipe this all off here in a little bit. But it is fun. And it is drama.
Ooh, I like
That
that.
is one exciting, crazy sky.
I think these 2 demos are the best ones you've done.
I agree.
Oh,
I was just
wow.
gonna say that very same thing. This is so helpful.
Great.
Feel free to say it again.
Very teachable moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All day long.
It looks like the cover of some like ET or you know, some kind of exciting sci-fi movie.
So that's just straight white on there that you put in there?
Yeah, but not much because I'm
Yeah.
using it to blend. You see how I go
Yeah.
as it goes away from where I put it, it just
Mhm.
becomes yellower or oranger or let's
I like-
pretend, let's see what happens if I want these clouds to have a rim to them. Right? They're heavy clouds. Oh, look at that.
That's what I've been seeing out here.
Yeah, it's all those UFOs. Right? Isn't that fun?
That's beautiful.
Now let's do it in the sky because you know what? I'm not going to stop till I've completely ruined whatever goodness I've done.
Now,
How do you know when to stop?
what's the name of these clouds, Michael?
Dave and Daryl.
Oh.
And his other cloud, Daryl.
They look like
Yeah, it's Daryl and his brother Daryl.
Daryl, and Daryl.
That's right.
So
Oh,
Michael,
man.
when the top part of the painting, the sky is closer to you, and then as it comes down, it's going away from you. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what it feels like.
typically. I
Hey?
mean, clouds are clouds can be anywhere, but let's try
Yeah.
to see if we can't create that idea.
Mhm. So you make them lighter and less defined on the lower part, so they go back. Is that right?
If
That
that's,
is where it gets tough. That's where observation really comes into play because, you know, if it could be that they're windier up top or windier down below or so yeah, that's where it really gets tricky is trying to say, you know, there's no rules. So observation, but also that's what makes it so fun. I mean, I've literally had no idea what I was going to do. And I'm just having fun and just kind of responding. And
Extremely dramatic.
yeah, no, it's crazy town. It is literally like if you saw this sky, you would be running around the neighborhood, either telling people to come outside and look or to batten down their hatches and get into the basement.
Yeah, that's pink is great.
Now, there you go. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. So now does it feel like it has kind of layers of depth a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's bring just a
I
touch
love
of
the
this
red
pink.
cloud.
I'm going to bring just a touch of this pink up into here. So some of that light is, you know, wrapping around the top here.
I took pictures this week, Michael. The red on top of the gray clouds, and
Uh-huh.
on Facebook go, that does not even look real.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was Cheryl or somebody posted a picture that we get out here where Mount Hood casts a weird long shadow across the sky.
yeah,
It
I did.
Yeah, it's a seasonal thing that happens here, and it's a kind of a big deal. But every year I'm like, I wonder if I should paint that, but it's so weird
Yeah, it is.
where the
You
mountain just casts this
You
long.
could paint that and sell it out there because it's a common thing. It's something that's special to your area. But
Yeah,
here, I couldn't,
nobody would understand. Yeah, why is there a
Nobody
funnel
would
on the top of that
understand.
mountain? Yeah.
I see cloud shadows on the mountains out here all the time.
What a shift, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if I wanted to keep working on this, I'd make up some browns or whatever color, some darks. And I would fix my stupid trees, my 3 fingers here, right? And what I would do personally, when in doubt, just link them. Oh, see that difference?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
2 brush strokes, and all of a sudden just feels so much better, you know, and I could decide, do I want to keep linking them? Painting is fun. Right? Come down here, bring some darks into here. So this comes forward. I feel like take some of these colors that are up in here, and I'm just going to start chopping down some of these grasses. Because again, do you see how busy it is? I would love to have some kind of an opening in here. Sometimes you just got to do big drastic surgery. And then I just know that I can come back in. I got to be careful that I'm not mimicking this little shape right here. So let's bring it down lower over here. These colors aren't really relating. That pink is a little too cool, too light. Does that feel a little better, a little more open, a little more movement, a little more gesture, if you will?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Let's test something. So we got this transition, and I kind of like this little band of light here, right above the background trees. I'm going to see if I can push that. Just a little bit. As if there's a little more open light down there. I've also can push some of these reds in here. So the top of that gets a little warmer. The light, the sun is kind of right in here, so I can just kind of bring that warmth down and in. The voice in my head is saying, why do you keep messing with this? It's the students are happy. Why do you want to mess it up in front of them? My self-destructive tendencies.
Because you can.
Because I can.
Right.
How do you know when it, again, how do you know when enough is enough until you've gone too far?
Oops.
Yep. Oh, there it was. All right. Again, chaos, craziness, but it was a painting I didn't love, and now it's fun. I've learned some things. Hopefully you guys have learned some things. Let's go ahead and blend this down and soften it up and make it a little more naturalistic. So I'm just cleaning one of those big soft brushes. Maybe it'll subdue the drama a little bit.
Beautiful.
Ooh.
That's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So what hopefully that did was to bring our focus back into here a little more, right?
Right.
By having, it's still exciting. There's still a lot of UFO activity going on up here. But at the same time, it's, this is where the real mothership is. It's down here.
Wow.
And I love the reflections.
And by thinning it, like kind of spreading it like I'm doing now, it'll be pretty dry, this helps it to dry out a little bit. Plus it also hopefully takes some of the glare off it so you guys can actually see it. I also can soften these edges over here. Soften these edges over here. And really, hopefully control your focus. Let's see if we can do something a little even crazier here.
What colors were you using in that pink? Like in that just above the yellow, orangey there? Yeah,
Indian yellow and quinacridone red and white.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's almost my very favorite color combinations. I've had multiple people go, I can tell it's your painting when I see that color in it, that kind of peachy color.
What kind of oils do you use, or is it all different kinds?
I mean, they're all different. I use, yeah, all different. But typically linseed oil is the oil that I prefer. It dries a touch faster than the walnut oil. And it doesn't yellow as much as the safflower oil. I think I'm saying those correctly. Like remembering that right.
I think so.
Wow.
Okay, who's ready for a break?
That's awesome.
It is beautiful.
Send that to your gallery.
Well, it's got a lot of work to do, but yeah. But it was fun. I mean, I really love the top of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. And then do you guys want to see me actually paint a sunset, like from the beginning, from a white
Yes.
panel?
Yes.
But anyways, thank you for letting me do that demo of glazing, harmonizing, warm and cool. Do you guys see how using cool colors makes the warm colors warmer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, great. Let's take a break. See you in a bit.
Okay.